compound butter is the perfect ingredient to add if your food just needs an extra boost of flavor, and I have 5 delicious recipes for you. Each can be made in less than 10 minutes, stores easily in your fridge or freezer for months, and it can be put on anything to enhance its flavors. This is one of the easiest and impactful flavor hacks any home cook can use. Our first compound butter is going to be a roasted garlic Parmesan butter. We're first going to grab 1 head of garlic, and with a knife we're going to cut off just the tip of it, exposing all those beautiful garlic cloves. Now I'm going to grab a sheet of aluminum, placing our garlic on top of it, hitting it with a little bit of olive oil and a strong sprinkling of salt. Close up the aluminum foil, wrapping up the garlic clove fully, and then head on over to our oven and set it to 350 degrees convection bake. Once it's preheated, we're going to load our garlic into the oven and let it slowly roast for 45 minutes to an hour. About 50 minutes later, I'm going to take our garlic out and unravel it, and you can see it's browned and softened beautifully. Most people tend to squeeze all the garlic out of it, but with a toothpick, I like to pull each clove out, or if it's really soft like it is for me, just use a spoon to just squeeze out each individual clove. You won't be wasting nearly as much garlic versus just squeezing the whole thing, and in the end, you get this nice little garlic flower that I'm sure will ward off any vampires. Now, roasting the garlic like this really enhances the flavor of the garlic, bringing it to a whole other level for really little work. Next, we're gonna grab 2 sticks of unsalted butter, and if yours is not softened like me, let me show you a quick way on how to soften it. All you have to do is just throw it in the microwave and just very gently microwave it for about 20 seconds at 5 power. After the 20 seconds, give it a touch to see if it's softened. If it's still a little firm, microwave it for just 5 to 10 more seconds max. You should have beautifully softened butter in just less than a minute, but be careful because it is very easy to overdo it and melt the butter. Dang it, I did it a little too much. Now in a small bowl, we're gonna throw in our 2 sticks of softened unsalted butter, followed by 2 tablespoons of minced Italian parsley, which I just quickly ran my knife through it a few times until I've minced it to small little pieces. I'll also throw in 1/3 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, which I just hit it with a microplane. And yes, you should be using the fresh stuff because it tastes so much more better. So much better. Hit it with a few cranks of freshly cracked black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, and all of our roasted garlic, which is mashed so it evenly disperses in our butter. Now mix that butter thoroughly, really getting all those ingredients incorporated. And it's really important to have actually softened butter here, because if not, you're gonna be having a pain in the butt mixing this sucker. Now this is your roasted garlic Parmesan compound butter, and this is something that I personally love making and pairing it with my homemade focaccia. The two go together like wine and cheese, and I promise you it will never not disappoint. Wait, did I say that right? It would always be delicious. It is never going to disappoint. Yeah, I said it right. Now to store this butter, we're going to grab some plastic wrap, and then we're going to throw down the butter right in the middle of it, and then bring the wrap over and around the butter, slowly shaping it into a tube. From here, form the butter a little bit more, and then grab and pinch the end, rolling it into itself, and then rolling it on the cutting board. Now tuck in the strands on the side, and this should give you a nice, beautifully shaped butter that we're going to now put on a sheet pan and then throw it in the fridge to firm up. Once it's firm, you should be able to get some beautiful slices out of it, and then here is a nice little cross section. Now let's move on to our next butter, which is a balsamic and rosemary compound butter, and this one is scary good on bread. It's my personal new favorite. In a small bowl, we're going to toss in 2 sticks of unsalted softened butter, and then we're going to toss in 2 tablespoons of minced shallots. To mince our shallot, we're going to cut off the tip, split it in half, and then remove that outside layer of paper. I'm then going to give it vertical cuts along the shallot, not cutting through the roots, and then I'm going to run my knife, giving us a nice small mince. Take your time with it because you do want this to be a smaller mince, no large chunks. Feel free to run your knife through it a few more times if it's a little too chunky. And quick question, be honest, does it look like I actually coughed out a shallot, or do I just look absolutely ridiculous? That was probably so stupid. Next, we'll toss in 1.5 tablespoons of freshly minced rosemary, which I'm gonna grab 3 to 4 rosemary stems, and then I'm gonna strip off the leaves from the stem themselves. And fun fact, I love the smell of rosemary. Something about fresh rosemary just makes me feel like it's Christmas. The time of year when we watch Will Ferrell as Elf and yell Santa, Santa! Now I'm gonna run my knife through the rosemary a few times, getting us a small little mincing. And if you're filming it like me, please be careful and don't stab your camera. Stabbed my camera. Actually, I did stab my camera with the tip of my knife. Are we good? Yeah, I didn't scratch the lens. Dang. Back to our bowl, we're gonna toss in 2 teaspoons of honey, followed by 2 tablespoons of balsamic glaze. And just to clarify, this is balsamic glaze, not balsamic vinegar. Balsamic glaze is a little thicker and it incorporates a little better with our butter. We'll lastly add 1 teaspoon of salt, and with a spoon, mix all those ingredients together until they're nicely and cohesively combined. And now this is your balsamic and rosemary butter. This stuff is perfect for bread. It kind of reminds me of when you have oil and balsamic vinegar and you dip bread in there. It's like the same kind of feel and taste. Speaking of tasting, make sure you give it a taste and make sure all the salt levels and everything is good, and try not to choke on a tiny shallot. I'm okay. Oh my gosh, that's really good, despite the fact that I almost died. Now I'm gonna wrap this butter in some plastic wrap so we could store it in the fridge. And just so you know, once you let it rest in the fridge, those flavors marinate and develop and become even better. This is what it looks like once it's nice and solid, and here is a beautiful cross section of it as well. Now, if you like a butter that has an umami punch of flavor, well, then let me introduce you to our miso butter. We're first gonna grab ourselves a small bowl, toss in 2 sticks of softened, unsalted butter, followed by 2 tablespoons of red miso paste. Red miso has a ton of flavor and it's surprisingly very easy to find at most grocery stores now. Along with it, we're gonna throw in 2 to 3 chopped green onions, and to prep the green onions, all you're gonna do is just cut off the tip and then run your knife through it, chopping as much of the greens as thinly as possible. I didn't include the whites of the green onions. I prefer these for cooking and sauteing, but you honestly could throw it in. It's not that big of a deal. Next, we're gonna grate in 1 clove of garlic, hit it with some freshly cracked black pepper, toss in half a teaspoon of dried chili flakes, half a teaspoon of salt because miso paste is already pretty salty, and then half to 3/4 of a teaspoon of MSG. The most deadly ingredient of them all, he said very sarcastically. Now with the spatula, we're gonna mix all those ingredients together, and you should be getting hit with a few delicious smells. Ooh, this one already smells so good by itself. I am already being hit with all the flavors and smells of deliciousness. Now this is your miso butter, and I gotta say, this thing blew my mind. It is so good. I gifted most of these butters to a few friends of mine, and they all said the best one was this miso butter. Holy cow, that is so freaking good. That's like an an umami explosion just blowing up in your mouth. Now I'm gonna wrap up our miso butter with some plastic wrap, the same as we've been doing it before, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge so it can marinate all those flavors and turn to solid butter. The next day, here is a beautiful slice of that miso butter, and here's that beautiful cross section. I gotta say, this one has so much flavor, it's worth it. I always forget to do this part, but if you're enjoying this video and you wanna support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would appreciate any support you guys can provide. Now, if you like something that has a lot of herbs and acidity, you would love this lemon herb compound butter I have for you here. To make this butter, you'll first need to grab a food processor, which you technically do need this. Not only are we going to be cutting a lot of herbs, but we need to mix a lot of liquid into this butter, and the machinery of a food processor or a hand blender, for example, really helps. In our food processor, I'm going to toss in a small handful or 10 grams of Italian parsley, 8 grams worth of chives, 3-ish stems of rosemary that I just peeled off those leaves from the stem itself, 8 grams of tarragon, which I again removed the leaves from the stem, the zest of 1 lemon, which I just grabbed a microplane and just ran it around 1 whole lemon. And I forgot to put it in here, but also 2 cloves of garlic. I ended up putting it in later, but it didn't incorporate that well, so I'll put it in now. Now we're gonna pulse and blend all those herbs together, really breaking them down into smaller little pieces. Everything should be nicely broken down down, and using this food processor really does save you from a lot of manual knife work. Now I'm gonna throw in our 2 sticks of softened unsalted butter, as well as 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, which that lemon we zested, I split it in half and juiced it. Toss in 1 teaspoon of salt, and then this is where I threw in the 2 garlic cloves, but they didn't break down easily enough, so again, put it in before. In the meantime, look at this hilarious clip of me dropping the garlic. Ah, the garlic, oh. It fell over the edge. Now we're gonna turn our food processor on and blend that butter and lemon juice and all the herbs together. That spinning of the food processor really does a lot of work in incorporating the juice of the lemon into the butter. Now we're gonna dump our butter into a bowl, and now this is your herb butter that's nicely blended, has a bunch of acidity from that lemon that balances out all those bitter herbs. I'm gonna wrap this up as we did for our other compound butters, and then once it's solid, here's a beautiful slice and that nice little cross section of the butter itself. This butter works perfectly with some more Mediterranean chicken vibes, or a lot of fish as well, and potatoes pair perfectly with it. But what if you want something that's a little bit more full of bold, bright flavor? Well, then let me show you this sun-dried tomato compound butter. We're gonna grab a small bowl and toss in 2 sticks of unsalted softened butter, followed by 1 tablespoon of minced Italian parsley, which I just ran my knife through some Italian parsley until it's nice and small. 1.5 tablespoons of some minced basil. So I grabbed a big packet of basil, removed the leaves from the stem, stacked the leaves on top of each other, and then rolled them up into a nice little compact basil tube. I don't know what to call it. From here, I ran my knife through it, giving us some nice decorative basil strands. And then I also ran my knife through it a few more times, just breaking up those strands into nice little small bits. I'll also throw in 1/3 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Again, freshly grated, it makes a world's difference. Followed by 2 tablespoons of minced sun-dried tomatoes. This is the backbone of the flavor of this butter, so really get the good stuff, and you're just gonna run your knife through them until you get 2 tablespoons worth. Try not to get too much of the oil in just the sun-dried tomatoes, but it's okay if a little bit gets in there. And 2 tablespoons for me was about 4 sun-dried tomatoes. It depends the size. But next, we're gonna throw in 1/2 tablespoon of some minced Calabrian chilies. This stuff is super spicy, but adds so much flavor and love to the butter. And I would go lighter if you are sensitive to heat. I think 1/2 tablespoon is perfect for everyone. If you do want it to be spicy though, throw in a whole tablespoon. Next, we're gonna throw in 1 teaspoon of salt and the zest of 1 lemon. And the lemon itself is technically optional. I think the zest gives a lot of flavor, but we aren't using any of the juice of the lemon. So if you're thinking that's wasteful at all, then don't bother incorporating the zest. I personally love lemon water, so I'll be using this lemon at home. It's not going to waste. Now we're gonna mix all these ingredients together, and we're gonna realize that we forgot to add 1 clove of garlic that's been finely grated. Alternatively, you can also throw in some roasted garlic in this recipe as well, but I already used it for the first recipe. Now, once everything is mixed nicely and thoroughly, this is your sun-dried tomato compound butter, which I gotta say, visually looks like the most stunning of all the butters, and it has a ton of flavor compact into it. This guy would be dangerous on some garlic bread or even pasta, any pasta. Oh, this is game over, man. This is, as Guy Fieri would say, Flavor Town. Now I'm gonna wrap this butter up in some plastic wrap and do your best not to lick the spatula, but don't worry, if you can't do it, neither could I. And after a quick refrigerator break, I'm gonna give it a nice little slice, and behold that beautiful bright red cross section of all those flavors. Now, if you like that focaccia I showed you earlier and you wanna make your own, then you gotta check out my focaccia recipe right here. It's super easy to make and it won't disappoint. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching.